than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane!
It's Superman! Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman!
I remember Superman. I remember hope. Superman for me was a pillar of my developing interests growing up. I watched the first 3 episodes of the animated series on loop countless times, and I somehow watched him on Justice League Unlimited even more. It was a character that taught me, even if I didn't understand it at the time, that strength without restraint made you weak, and that power without kindness made you a tyrant. Even though in my teenage years I rejected the idea of Superman, whether it was because of ignorance or just my sheer disappointment in Man of Steel, I still came back to the realization that Superman is one of the greatest characters in all of fiction. I grew out of my teenage depression phase and understood that the world needed to have Superman, and all he stood for. I learned that for better or worse, the society we live in, however cold or isolated, could still embrace the idea of truth and justice.
Get in the oven, Frank.
Please.
Get in the oven or your family goes in with you.
But something has gone wrong in our culture, and I've needed to get this off my chest for a while. The dark reflection trope is one that has been a staple in fiction and storytelling for thousands of years. The idea that the hero must battle a version of himself that succumbs to his dark desires is present in many stories such as Lord of the Rings with Gollum and Frodo, or Link and Dark Link in Legend of Zelda, which is a very literal depiction of this trope. As for Superman, he seems to have an unending list of dark reflections, the most well-known and earliest being Bizarro. First appearing in 1958 Superboy number 68, Bizarro was quite literally the opposite of Superman, right down to his morals and individual powers. Over the years, the character became one of the most well-known Superman villains, even getting a brief run of comics dedicated to the character. So from the beginning, people were fascinated with the concept of Superman's dark reflection. However, this did not end here. As we will see, Superman was given many of these shadow selves, often depicting Superman as someone who either started out as evil or was corrupted and ultimately lost touch with his morals.
There are at least 6 different ways I can stop you right now.
But they all involve deadly force, don't they? And you don't do that. No, you need me. You wouldn't be much of a hero without a villain, and you do love being a hero, don't you? The cheering children, the swooning women, you love it so much it's made you my most reliable accomplice.
Accomplice? What do you...
You could have crushed me any time you wanted, and it wasn't the law or the will of the people that stopped you. It was your ego. Being a hero was too important to you. You're as much responsible for this as I am. So go ahead. Fix it somehow, put me on trial, lock me up, but I'll beat it. And then we'll start the whole thing all over again.
I did love being a hero, but if this is where it leads, I'm done with it.
Hera.
Well, it had to be done.
Are you okay?
I'm great.
Superman stands for truth, justice, and the American way, or a better tomorrow. So what are the opposites of these morals? Well, the opposite of truth is deceit, and the opposite of justice is injustice, and the opposite of the American way is too deep of a topic to get into for a video like this. I mean, I don't know, Russia, communism, something like that, I don't know. But it's much easier to dissect his more recent slogan, a better tomorrow. The opposite moral of striving for a better tomorrow would be to strive for a worse future. And Superman, above all else, believes in people. Regular people like you and me. Despite his power, he doesn't see himself as better than us. In reality, he sees himself more as Clark Kent than Superman, because he was raised first and foremost as a human from Kansas. His values and desire to help people came from his caring parents and strong family unit. Plenty of depictions of an evil Superman depict a Superman in which he wasn't raised by his parents, the most notable being Superman from Red Son Superman, in which the character lands in communist Russia as an infant instead of in America. As such, he is instilled with a completely different set of moral principles that aligns with where he was raised in the story. Other depictions show a corruption of the character as an adult, where a traumatic event causes him to betray everything he stood for. The most known example of this being Injustice Superman, in which the character is tricked into killing Lois Lane and his unborn child. On top of all that, a nuclear bomb is set off in Metropolis, which is all the work of the Joker. This sends Clark over the edge and he ends up killing the Joker and essentially becomes a dictator of the world. Injustice Superman, as the title suggests, no longer believes in justice, but instead believes in tyranny. Ultraman and Superboy Prime are other examples of Superman becoming corrupt or being evil from the start. But let's take a look at more popular examples of evil Superman in the mainstream, that of Homelander and Omni-Man. Now these are not actually different versions of Superman, but their powers and appearance are so similar, and it is very clear that it's meant to be a form of critique or subversion of the Superman character. Omni-Man has a very similar appearance to Superman, and at least two of his powers, that of flight and strength. At the beginning of the show, we are to believe that Omni-Man is a benevolent figure sent to Earth by his planet when he was already an adult in order to help us. He presents the same moral compass as Superman on the outside. He cares about his family, he cares about helping others, and he seems like a genuinely compassionate guy. Until it is revealed that he was actually sent to take over the Earth by his planet. Omni-Man presents an interesting case where this story's version of Krypton is altered to be much more tyrannical and dystopian. Omni-Man comes from a world where only the strongest survive and are sent out to conquer worlds for their empire. Omni-Man commits heinous acts throughout the show, most notably in the first and last episodes. But the thing that makes him the most opposite of Superman is deceit, which runs contrary to Superman's belief in the truth. Omni-Man lied to the entire world, including his family, in order to serve himself. While he does seem to be developing a more complex character arc, unlike someone else we will get to, he is still undoubtedly one of the most mainstream examples of the evil Superman trope. Before moving on to Homelander, I want to quickly bring up a version of evil Superman that doesn't get talked about that much. Brightburn. If you don't know, Brightburn is a movie that came out in 2019 and depicts this version of Superman as a child who becomes corrupted by his alien heritage and ultimately becomes a supervillain and essentially a monster. His motives are very similar to that of Omni-Man, where his heritage has more of a dark influence on him than that of the actual Krypton had on Superman. Okay, on to the main event. Season 1 of The Boys was truly a phenomenon. I watched it and I thought, like a lot of people, that it was great. Then Season 2 came out, and I also thought it was pretty good. Then Season 3 came out, and I thought it was fine. And to be honest, I didn't even bother with watching Season 4, but I've seen plenty of clips featuring Homelander. Now, like most people, I thought Homelander was the best part of the show, and at the time of Season 1, the idea of an evil Superman, at least one this menacing, was not heard of in the mainstream. Anthony Starr's performance, matched with a great script, for Season 1 at least, really made his character a standout. But Over time, it became glaringly apparent, at least in my opinion, that this was a one-trick pony. Homelander shows up, says or does something terrible, move on. Unlike Omni-Man, he doesn't really have any character arc or character growth. And I'm not saying that every character needs to have growth. Last I checked, Sauron didn't come around at the end of Lord of the Rings, but the problem is that Homelander is one of the main characters of the show, and has an exorbitant amount of screen time. When we see him do the same things over and over again, it gets very tiring, at least for me. Homelander's origins are what ultimately led him to become evil, as he was severely abused as a child while being experimented on in a lab, showing just how vital Martha and Jonathan Kent were to Superman. All of these characters, one after the other, just make me want to say, stop. I know this video is a little further removed from all of this, but back in 2019 through 2023, we got bombarded with so many evil Supermen, but no actual Superman to balance it all out. Still to this day, we have Homelander, and I am just over it. Obviously, I'm not saying that creators need to restrict themselves. I am just personally saying, and I hope I speak for others, I need some hope. I need hope to be brought back into the entertainment I consume, and this doesn't just stop at Superman. At the risk of sounding like a doomer, I just can't help but feel that our society is corroding. What we need now more than ever is Superman. The real Superman.
What we have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose and show you just how powerful I really am.
The world is a crazy place. It's been crazy for a long time, but it seems that our entertainment is becoming jaded along with us. I can't help but feel we are trapped in an endless cycle of despair. Go online, see something terrible, go out in public, see and hear something terrible, go home and try to enjoy a movie or a show or even a video game, and still see something terrible. I know I framed this video around Superman, but in reality, there are a lot of ways in which the media we consume has been corrupted by our own cynical mindset. I don't need to tell you that the rates of depression and anxiety have drastically gone up. I can't help but feel like watching a guy dressed like Superman laser beam a crowd of people isn't very helpful, especially since it has been over a decade since we saw Superman, the real Superman, on the big screen, and multiple decades since it was a wholesome version of Superman. Now I know there is the Superman and Lois TV show, and I enjoyed what I saw for the most part, but if all we as a society can muster up is a CW show to brighten our spirits, then we are not going to be getting out of our rut anytime soon. I'm not saying that as artists we need to constantly be thinking about the context of the society we live in. If that were the case, we would never have gotten Oppenheimer. But what I am saying is that for too long, the scales have felt unbalanced. So much negativity and not nearly enough uplifting positivity. And the character most indicative of that is Superman. This is why the new Superman trailer got me so excited, and why it finally pushed me to talk about this. I didn't have much motivation to discuss this before knowing whether or not I would get an actual inspiring Superman movie. But it seems like we might be getting that. The shot of Superman saving that little girl is everything I want and need in a superhero movie. We don't get to see the heroes actually save anyone nearly as much as we should. And it even looks like Superman might be fighting an evil version of Superman in this movie. So within the movie, Clark Kent will defeat an evil Superman. And in the real world, hopefully, this movie will defeat the concept of an evil Superman. At the end of the day, artists and creatives are going to do what they want, and that's fine. But I am personally ready to believe in a better tomorrow again.
What do you know? I did kill him. I was mistaken earlier. I think this is the part where you kill me.
I'm not the man who killed President Luthor. Right now, I wish to heaven that I were, but I'm not.
I know I am late to the party on this, and that plenty of people have made videos similar, but this is a topic that I am particularly passionate about, and that new trailer just gave me the spark I needed. I don't know if it'll be a good movie, or a bad movie, but I can tell you that I am very excited. I hope everyone had a good holiday, and stay safe out there.